I'll join Dio. I won't put on my broken sunglasses.
We might be live. I'm not sure. He doesn't have the Discord screen share up. I'm just going based on the fact that the stream is live. So I guess we're live, but we don't get Discord screen share. So that's really cool. Hi, guys. Oh my God, is there sound this week?
We can be
Holy
heard for
crap,
once.
there's sound
Right.
this week. Let's go.
Holy shit.
So, welcome to another week of Full Circle. And this week we have things to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest upset possibly in the history of OWC. South Korea over United States in the semifinals, as well as some not so fun things to talk about. The China.
What do you mean? They're very fun.
The China
fun.
situation is it has to be covered. We don't want to talk about it any more than you guys probably do, but we're going to. And then of course predictions for finals week, which things are going to get even spicier than they already were, I think, because we're down to the top 6 and there's some good teams. So we got a whole big group here. We got the 5-man squad. Anybody for some Fia-sco after this? We got enough to get that started. We got Dio, Miles, Dada, iFlame, and myself. And Dada's making motions with his mouth, but not saying anything.
5-man. It's 5-man. That's what he's saying.
All right. So we are gonna get started pretty quick here. And as the spearhead of the investigation, we're gonna have Dada start off with a little bit of background because we do need to cover, of course, the unfortunate China situation. And so we're gonna go down there to Mr. Investigative Journalist himself, Dada, to talk about what happened, how it was discovered, and its implications going forward.
Okay. So, hi. It's been a week, certainly, for OWC. I think this is the first high-profile cheating case we've ever discovered in standard OWC that's happened during the tournament. Like, we've had confirmed cases of cheating that were found out after, but they didn't actually matter, like the case of like a Belgian player a few years back, Jode, or a case of a Chilean player, like I think even last year, but that wasn't confirmed if he was cheating in tournament or not, or he got banned, or the case of Prez where, you know, they got banned for cheating after, but like you never know. But on this one, we are very certain. Fia from Team China, which was their standout player for the first 4 rounds of the tournament, has been found to be cheating, and they were found to be cheating using some form of replay submission and replay correction. So they were essentially playing the maps, maybe getting a couple misses, maybe like doing somewhat badly, but they were using a software to correct their misses and submit that play as their official tournament play. And the way they were doing this is that they would actually just submit the replay and manually time it, so that, like, potentially, I think it's actually likely that it's even with the in-game offset tool. So they would start maps, and they would start maps completely off time sometimes, but they would use the in-game offset tool or something else to try and make the replay line up with the actual map timing, which is why you'd see a lot of weird behavior, such as the clip you all know where the brain lag clip, they didn't know when the spinner started, so their movements had no actual cue to go off of. And when that happened, they just didn't have like the proper timing of the map, and then they played the map half a beat behind or even more, and then they had to gradually shift offset, which is why you saw that extremely awkward behavior. It can't be explained through lags. We all found out it couldn't be explained through lags because we got the replay from them later, and we confirmed that there was no lag spike in that section of time. So, yeah. And then we had the whole situation with Ciccone where they were, like, Fia was already suspicious after the Romania match because of this clip and because of some other, like, oh, they came out of nowhere and they're an offline player and they have no yada, yada, yada. The things you all, like, usually suspect people for. And Ciccone made a report about 3 hours before the match, and it was very, like, vague report. It was like, oh, we have this and we have this, and I think they should be investigated and should maybe provide a live play before they play the match today. And then that spawned a whole situation of drama because, you know, you're trying to supposedly you're trying to like destabilize the enemy team. You're trying to maybe like gimp some player with having to record on a like bad piece of hardware, something like that. And then there was the whole drama situation. And then Russia actually lost, even though Fia had a couple of weird moments in there. And then a day later, like after I woke up the next day, I started tracking down all the VODs, seeing the behavior that Fia presented in every map, and essentially they were doing an extremely inhuman thing, which is they were starting the map off completely frozen in this exact spot that their input started, which was somewhere on the first node. So when you do that, that basically says you are either a psychopath, like you're legitimately trying to do that and gimping your start, or you are replay submitting in some form and you're trying to line it up so that there's a minimal amount of teleporting to happen, which is the usual tell for replay submission on the start of plays. So that spawned a whole lot of discussion around it, and then later on, another, I believe, Russian or Kazakhstani player got one actual replay where they were found to be replay correcting, replay remodding, however you want to call it, and then submitting another play with no misses or like a very late slider break. So that was how Fia was caught. Fia was caught in the solo play, but it's very, very obvious that she cheated in this tournament as well. Like, if you don't want to believe it, then like open your eyes, I guess. But yeah, so China has been disqualified, and after China has been disqualified, because it was done in a decently fast fashion, both Romania and Russia, which would have been the matchup in the losers bracket had China not beat Romania, will face I think Friday this week.
It's Friday 18 UTC that match is going to be taking place. I don't know the status of it being like streamed and stuff. I'm assuming it will be. There hasn't been really any update internally on that.
I think I heard from somewhere it'll be streamed.
Yeah, I assume. But yeah, so thank you, Dada. Just instant reactions. Like we haven't had a case like this really ever, right? In OWC, it's happened in community tournaments, but never in OWC. So I want to hear what you guys kind of have to think about this happening and what it maybe means for the current state of tournaments as well as the future.
This has happened in a World Cup before. I think it was Taiko World Cup 2018, and it was something really similar. It's kind of what set the precedent for, okay, we're going to eliminate this team, and the teams that were eliminated by them in this round are going to play and go on forward, which is a little bit different of precedent than what has happened in community tournaments before as well. Just kind of as an aside, usually in community tournaments when this kind of thing happens, they'll ask that team without the cheater to replay the bracket for several matches, depends on how many, but this is a slightly different thing because it is the World Cup, so the team is just disqualified outright. I don't know, this game just like doesn't have a good anti-cheat system, right? Like, you don't really know which players could be cheating unless it's something really obvious, like the brain lag clip that comes out and arouses suspicion in the first place. So for large community tournaments that don't have the same sort of for small community tournaments that don't have every match streamed, it becomes way harder to justify giving out large prize pools if you haven't seen people play with live plays or anything. B, for larger community tournaments, I think the same thing kind of holds true. It's just like, I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way as an organizer, because it's like, what is then the impetus for me to keep putting large amounts of time and money and everything into the tournament scene when there could be just people cheating their way to the top in the first place? So it does kind of rub me the wrong way. At the same time, I think this is a very, very rare case, and most people largely don't do this. Even cases of this kind of stuff in the community tournament scene are few and far between. So I don't think it's a huge issue, largely because it's a tighter knit community in the tournament scene. But it is kind of I don't know, not scary. That's not the right word, but just don't like it. Just don't like it. That's all.
And like, Fia played perennial. Fia ruined
Yeah.
their tournament technically. It didn't obviously affect the final
Technically.
result, but like they were doing other tournaments.
Yeah.
And for all we know, they've been cheating for the last at least 1.5 years. So like it's a big deal. And whoever does this and isn't like brain dead to take a no fail hidden score that they themselves submitted and submit it again, like you're gonna end up with the same kinds of reports that I did or Ciccone did, where like, oh, we see it, and like for most people, it's pretty obvious that someone is cheating, but there's no concrete proof. Like you can't just say, oh, like it's pretty obvious that this person is cheating based on X and X behavior, and like there's a really easy explanation for it. There's a really convoluted explanation for it, and then I favor the easy explanation this time. But like there's, if you have any like semblance of a doubt that they're cheating, then you can't accuse them of cheating formally. You can't actually ban them. And that's the big deal. Like if you're smart enough and you're careful enough to keep pulling this shit off, you can keep doing this for however many years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Max, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's pretty weird because we kind of had a little bit of a grace period after the Hall of Shame came out in like 2020. Like,
Yeah.
if you remember before then, there was a massive slew of tourney cheaters just over and over, like sometimes even multiple in the same tournament. Dada, remember Rikma? You had Khan and
God.
Hoshinomori getting banned in the same tournament. You had people cheating in Kanyo Cup. Remember Badgraph and Flavin on the same team. Like, it was kind of insane, but
that was Badgraph and Flavin and Kreds on the same team.
Oh, yeah,
Badgraph
Flavin and
and
Kreds.
Rectagon, I think, were on the same team or something.
Yeah.
Or they were in the
no,
same
no.
tournament, but Badgraph was turning out to cheat and Rectagon wasn't.
Yeah, people were accusing both of them. Rectagon luckily came out clean, but Badgraph obviously got banned, and that was massive. He was going to be on OWC Canada that year probably. But like, since the Hall of Shame came out, we really haven't seen that many like high-profile cheating cases, and it's like, obviously the anti-cheat can't pick up on everything. Like, it's there, but can't pick up everything. Like, we knew people were going to be like developing cheats that could bypass it, like the one Fia did, but like, we just hadn't seen it happen yet, and I think it was bound to happen at some point. And obviously, hats off to Dada, Ciccone, and all the people investigating for hopping on that as soon as possible. We're at least able to get Romania and Russia to play. But obviously, the teams that were eliminated at the hands of China, even if those matches were more decisive, even if China maybe could have won without Fia, like, they obviously got knocked out by a team with a cheater, and they're going to have a salty taste in their mouths. And I had something else to say. I'm trying to remember. But once again, like, all the harassment on both sides from this situation was really terrible. Like, obviously, the initial reaction to Ciccone was extremely negative, even though he was right in the end, and we probably aren't going to see many apologies. But like, in the end, everyone feels extremely shit about this. Like Crystal from China, his whole pop-off is now void. Same with Karumi and David, who've worked their asses off along with Crystal for the last almost a decade since China's like loss in 2015. Like, they've all been working their ass off. Maybe Crystal starting in 2016 when he was in the China match that lost to get second to the US. He was bottom scoring some maps. He wanted to work his ass off, and here he is. Now he is the guy, and it's all voided. Karumi and David playing 3WC, 4WC, and OWC for the last like 3 years. They're getting fucked over now in what would have been their best run since.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of just wanted to add to that last part a little bit. And that obviously this tournament is now just a big asterisk for China. You know, Crystal played incredibly well in that last round, and for a little bit, China thought they were top 6, which is obviously a really big accomplishment for all of those players. And now that being taken back, it brings the entire tournament for China into question. They had that very close match in round of 32 against Ukraine where they won in tiebreaker. But again, it was Fia who played really well. So China, not a team that anyone expected to get top 6, but I think one that a lot of people expected to go far. And so now there's a very big question mark on China's placement in this tournament. And so that's going to be super disappointing for the rest of the players on China who worked really hard all tournament.
To be clear, Their placement officially in this tournament is disqualified.
Yeah.
They're a DSQ team. They have no placement, and then it's just an empty spot, like a vacant spot for, like, I think top 12, which would be when the bracket officially got like reworked around that. So
Yeah, and it's like, how do you feel if you're Italy or UK the round before when she was popping off and probably cheating? I would like to see if there's anything that can come of this in terms of like better anti-cheat for tournaments at the very least. I mean, they have a whole separate server for OWC to be played on. Like that could be a start, to where do you, like figure out some sort of just do like a fucking vac secured client. Shit, dude. I don't know. But it's very saddening just to see in general because we've seen like community cheaters in tournaments before, but never anything like this. So it's a really big shame. And it's like on the bright side, we get Romania and Russia back in who get to play each other. So like it's really good that this was resolved, quote unquote, as quickly as it was. So we still get a match and we get to move on with like semi-legitimate bracket. But yeah, it's a big asterisk and it leaves a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of close out on it, at the very least, like you said, we do get two, I think, relatively strong teams out of the 4 that were eliminated by China, right? I think Romania, Russia are in most people's minds probably the strongest 2 teams that were eliminated by China. So to get them playing for that leftover spot in the finals, I think is very, very good timing. It unfortunately didn't get resolved in quarterfinals, but at least we don't go into the finals into, beyond where we could resolve any of it. And these 2 teams do get a shot at top 6 again and potentially a shot at top 4 later on.
Yeah. So that is the China situation. It was it's is what it is, I guess, at this point.
Sucks.
Yeah. But now we move on to I think the reason everybody's here. And that is the upset of all upsets. The end of an unprecedented era of dominance that could still continue in losers bracket, obviously, but USA South Korea. USA had not lost a match before the winners bracket final since 2014. That is 8 years they went with only losing matches in either winners final or grand final, and they only lost 1 match in the grand final before the bracket reset in 2018 and 2017. Other than that, it's been just this ridiculous era of dominance. And now South Korea comes in as the massive underdog, right? I mean, we picked all of us that were picking last week picked United States to win this match, and South Korea just didn't care. And it's been this historical era, right, where the United States has always had this debuff, right? That people have talked about, that it's the USA debuff. You're playing USA, you're just not going to perform at your best, and you're going to lose, because that's what's happened year over year, in this insane run that they've been on. And now that's all over. And it happened in a very surprising way that I don't think, if it was going to happen, I don't think it's the way anybody expected it to happen, with the 5-3 lead and then South Korea winning 2 points and then the tiebreaker. So how did this happen? And what does it imply for these teams going forward? I think are the big 2 questions here that we need to discuss. So I open the floor to whoever, but like, as a person who was sitting there commentating the match, it was shocking to see develop for me. I want to know what for you guys who were viewing it, what it was like, and what your thoughts are on how that match went.
Well, this round to me, South Korea feels like the DRX of OC, right? This is the Cinderella story for South Korea, beating Canada in tiebreaker in the quarterfinals with a crazy comeback, then dropping 5-2 to these giants in the US that everybody expects to win the entire tournament, winning that in tiebreaker. And this is just monumental. Obviously, a historic match for South Korea, and they're going to be feeling really good about themselves. But when you look at all the statistics, by all the measures, by all the statistics, except for the only statistic that matters, the USA should have won this match. I mean, if I was to give you just the match costs from this match and say which team won, you'd say, oh yeah, USA, pretty dominant. But South Korea is just such a clutch team. They win the close points every single time. They win these tiebreakers again and again. And you even look at the team scores overall. The USA lost 6-5. The 5 maps that they won, they had the top team score on every single one of them. They had a number 2 team score on 2 maps as well, obviously only losing those to South Korea. But imagine getting 5 number 1 scores, 2 number 2 scores, and still losing in tiebreaker. I mean, it feels like the stars aligned for South Korea in that match, and it's just going to be a historic match for years to come.
I think one other thing that went into this match that has kind of been talked about a little bit, but not really dove into a lot, is how well the pool can work for South Korea. I Flame, you mentioned, most of the maps that South Korea won, or a lot of the maps that South Korea won, the US was still very good on those maps, but things like the Free Mod 4 being really gimmicky, being that kind of rhythm-based map. A lot of the picks that South Korea is winning in these matches, both against the US and against Canada, they're going in on kind of the more gimmicky sorts of maps, the maps where you expect maybe 1 or 2 players to pop off and carry, and the 2 players that they are letting go in for those are, of course, Karcher and Worst HR player for him. Those are the 2 carry players for this team. They are really, really good on lots of reading-based aim control, finger control types of stuff. And that also happened to be the case with the tiebreaker both weekends here in semifinals and quarterfinals. You can kind of see both of those maps as relatively South Korea favored for the matches against both Canada and the US.
Dada's so mad about people's interpretation of the quarterfinals tiebreaker because he refuses to admit that it's a tech map that favored South Korea, even though everyone else thinks that. Literally everyone but Dada thinks that
if it's a tech map,
was a tech map that favored
if that's
South
a tech map, okay, if that's a tech map, then I'm a fucking bicycle.
I guess you've got some.
I guess you're a bicycle,
man.
I guess
so.
Man, like that means like Euphoria is a tech map. That means Sound Chimera is a tech map. That means like so much of like tech streamy, but still very mechanically.
He just used the word
maps.
tech himself, guys.
Yeah, but like, that doesn't mean it's a tech map. That means it has tech elements.
I think the thing that makes it so that it's favored toward South Korea's players is that the carry players for South Korea are both really good mechanically at aim and lower BPM streams, and really good at tech at the same time. So you're not going to have the case like it is for a lot of other teams where they have either mechanics players or tech players most of the time, and then maybe 1 or 2 all-rounders who can go in for those types of maps. You have these players who are really, really strong at everything those maps demand, and that's rare, especially to have more than one of those players on a team, which was the case for South Korea both times. So it's not that the quarterfinals tiebreaker is a tech map, it's that the fact that it has those tech elements makes it so that most of the carry players in the World Cup aren't as good on it as the carry players for South Korea. And that's really important because this weekend, it's not a tech tiebreaker. No. It's anything but.
Yeah, it's anti-tech.
So, definitely not South Korea favorite tiebreaker.
It has rhythm sections, so I guess it's South Korea favorite because it's technically rhythm.
True, Free Mod 4.
If you don't, if you're sight reading it, you're gonna get caught off by some of the BPM changes in that one. But yeah, I have a few things to say about this match personally. One, to start, so the pattern that USA 3-way broke on the tiebreaker, me and Trailmix said was like unsight readable. And all 3 of the USA players broke on it. But I mean, I played it a few more times and I was like, okay, it's probably a sight read issue. But Trailmix wanted new combos on those kick sliders that were like going up from the bottom middle of the screen to like the top left. That's where all of USA broke. And that was pretty funny. Also, another thing, this is kind of a product of the new look USA team this year. I think looking at the points they lost, if you see on screen losing down. So USA, if you think about the last like decade, ever since like 2015, they have been a gimmick team that has just never, ever, ever ever lost that skill set. Like, if you think about it, back in the era of like even Toy, Tony, those guys, they were always crushing those gimmickier maps. Now or into the era of like Airyu and now Utami and Bashiman even. But USA were scared to pick that HG2 at the end. You saw them lose that HR3 alt map, and they go into another alt map, albeit very different, but they decided to go into that pick anyway, and they got punished for it. But I still thought they should have picked Hidden 2 there. I mean, I think like questioning that pick there, like I don't question it too much, even though obviously in retrospect they lost it. But I would have picked Hidden 2. Historically, they have just been so strong in that. You're putting the other team's best player, Karcher, on his weakest skill set. You have players who are good at it. I just wonder why they didn't pick it. And also, back to the topic of the carries, we saw Utami getting a uncharacteristically low score on that tiebreaker. And we expect him to be like the guy to be up there to like match players like Malashevsky and Karcher on a lot of picks. And while he did do pretty well on a lot of maps in this match, looking at this Nomad 4 on screen, that tiebreaker is where we're really expecting that to like really show up. I mean, I don't know if he was sight reading or not. He probably would have done better if he gave it a few runs beforehand, but like
we have intel from the US team that none of them sight read the tiebreaker, at least the ones who played in match.
Okay, then maybe I'm full of shit, but I still think he should have. Okay. I think he could have gotten a better score on that, and I think the mechanics tiebreaker this week will come to favor him more. But I'm not really sure if USA is going to get pushed to the brink like this again. But obviously, huge hats off to South Korea. They played insane this match.
Okay. Okay. All right, Dada, go.
Okay. Despite both tiebreakers that South Korea won being considered tech tiebreakers, it is something to like argue like against that point, like the tiebreakers all being South Korea favored. They lost both tech picks in both matches. They lost Fake Life.
They lost Nomad 4 to both teams.
Nomad 4 to both teams, and somewhat decisively at some points. So like, maybe that doesn't actually change anything, but it's a lot more contested than you think it is. I think it's just a matter that South Korea just has infinite mental.
South Korea has that clutch gene, bro.
They just
they're fully unironically
mentality. They actually have that dog in them. Like they get there and they aren't rattled.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't even say that's true though. Like the did you see the shakes on Nomad 4 as well? For I think Kamamiya Kokoro.
Yeah, I love that guy.
He was so shaky.
Yeah. That's my boy. Represent Shake Gang.
The USA is into this really interesting spot this year, though, right? Like they've never, if you think back over the past few years, they've never been a mechanics team. Like they were the ones banning like the Nomad 5s and the DT2s in the past few years because Germany outclassed them on speed year over year. I mean, yes, last year they brought in Arison and they were good at it again, but like historically, USA has been so good at gimmick. And then this year, they come into South Korea, which is a team they're better at mechanics than, fine. But literally, like, it felt like they didn't have a good pick left once they got through the 3 DTs that were left up in the Nomad 2. Because they had a roster for the team maps, right? Like, the DTs and the Nomad 2, like, they were 3-way, 4-way FCing, and it was just no question. And they were better because they had those. But on maps that were 1-man or 2-man carryable, so like the Hidden 3 or the gimmick maps where your top performers are arguably more important because you're probably not going to get the depth on those picks. The USA wasn't there. Yes, Utami played well, I'll give him that, but like historically they've always had 1 or 2 of those guys. Like they had Vaxei and Idke, Vadkei and Ixi, yes. They had Vaxei, Idke in the past, you know, they had Utami and FancyLed at peak in the past like 2019, 2020, 2021. And now this year, like, they have Utami, and then it's kind of a question of who is next, because they have people who are playing well in mechanics, sure, but they don't have like that all-around real big carry that you can put it on any map and will still be performing well, which is something that they've always had in the past. They've always been able to fall back on, and all of a sudden they don't have that anymore. And you see them losing these gimmick maps. You see them losing this tiebreaker because South Korea has Karcher and they have worst HR player, and they have Faricia, or whatever the case may be for that second player, and they're not the USA is not getting those kind of two-man performances like they're used to getting, and it kind of cost them this match.
They need Aereo.
Okay,
They actually miss Aereo.
They do miss Aereo and Fire Rage. Like, I hate to say this, you have Bashiman on the team, you put Bashiman on the team, specifically, basically to slot into a lot of these Fire Rage, like, maps that he used to play. Where it's like, oh, he's playing the Hard Rock Precision, he's playing the Tech, he's playing, like, a lot of the gimmicks, he's playing the maps nobody else wants to play. He played 0 maps. He played 0 maps in a match that went to tiebreaker. Like, I don't see why you're putting him on the team if you don't trust him. Like, I don't have full intel on this, but, like, what? Like, you have an 8-man roster, and you put a guy to play specifically what South Korea is pretty much good at, and then he's just not playing anything. Is that an issue of the team captains not trusting him? Is that an issue of him not feeling well? Like, I don't understand. Also, I think a lot of hype surrounding Utami has kind of died down. Like, Utami, obviously, I think
Played
still
well, but
statistically the best player in the United States. But you compare him to Karcher, you compare him to Malashevsky, you compare him to even Zuninator right now. He's not delivering as much. And I hate to say this, but, like, if he was, the U.S. still would be in winner's bracket. The U.S. still would be, like, probably beating South Korea 6-3, 6-2, whatever.
You know,
Like,
there's
just a TB, honestly.
Yeah, because, like, one of two things happens. If Utami FC's the first pick, literally free mod 1, they win 6-2. Or if he just gets a normal score on tiebreaker, they win 6-5. And neither of those things happen, so they lose 6-5. Like, he didn't have the clutch gene that we're used to seeing from him. That's been why he's become this feared tournament player over the last couple of years, which is something that Karcher has, which is something that Malashevsky has, something that Zudi has. I mean, hell, even like Kriller, right? There's people who are usurping that title really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I don't know that you certainly can't entirely put this round on Utami. He still had, number 3 overall individual
Right.
performance play, maybe underperformed on the tiebreaker.
No,
That
it's
cost
obviously
him,
not
but
his fault.
yeah,
Yeah,
throughout the match, still played incredibly well and has been able to, for the most part, match up to players like Karcher and, Kriller. But just this match, it felt like they did not have the clutch factor, like you mentioned, and South Korea won the points that mattered.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It feels like I said at the beginning, whatever aura it's been that the US has had for the past, 7 out of the past 8 years, it feels like they didn't have that in this match once it got down to crunch time. Like,
Feels
it felt like they
haven't
had
had
it
that
to
all
get
tournament,
2-5-3. Yeah, and I mean, right, they lost 2 points to Israel. They went 6-4 against Hong Kong. Like,
I feel like as soon as they dropped 2 points to Israel, everyone kind of went, "Wait, what the hell is USA doing?"
Yeah.
And the aura just kind of faded away because they were number 1 out of qualifiers, which is the expectation. That's been the case every single year there's been qualifiers in OWC. But then you drop 2 points to Israel and drop 4 to Hong Kong, and everybody just kind of says, is this team actually this good or
Right.
not?
Yeah.
Because
I said this.
they have not, to put it in your words, Aaron, they have not passed the eye test the entire tournament long, starting from round of 32, continuing in quarterfinals, and now they actually lost in semifinals for the first time before winners finals since 2014. So, like, this is the weakest USA team since probably 2014, 2015. I think it's probably fair to say. Like,
Yep.
This is still a very good USA team, but this is the weakest they've been in like 8 years.
I said this in a previous iteration, that a lot of facing USA over these past few years of dominance was mental. Like, you got behind 2-0, 3-0, you wanted to end the match. Oh, we have no chance. They're much better than us, etc., etc. Once that aura is lost, once that, like, mental edge, like, fades, it's just a standard match for Vosu. And, like, we've been talking a lot about the US, but South Korea is legit. South Korea is really fucking good this year. Like, they have Karcher, obviously, who's been the standout performer, but, like, you look at some of these MP scores, worst HR player, amazing performance, like, really being the number 2, really being that Scottie Pippen type. And you have, like, standout scores from people like Perugia, where like, dude, that guy scored almost as much as Karcher on the tiebreaker. Like, nobody's talking about that.
Yeah, it just felt like an afterthought because you're always looking at Karcher and worst HR player on this team, and then they just suddenly have. And this was what I feel like we kind of said like back during Corsace and back during the preview stream, is that South Korea, they put in Karcher, worst HR player, and then they just spawn in two random other players who both get like 600k on a map, and you've never heard of either of them, and they win it. And you have no clue who these people are. You have no clue how they're putting up these scores, but they're just doing it anyway. Like I had literally never heard of half of this team before this, or at least before Corsace when the team they were on did well.
Yeah,
but they're like just winning, and nobody knows how or why, other than that Karcher and worst HR player are getting good supporting scores. It's wild.
Yeah, the Corsace team, by the way, that they were on no title that got 4th place this year, is largely different players. Like Karcher's on there, Parisia's on there, Allegrissimo is on there, and those are the only 3 players that are actually the same. Like the entire 5 out of 8 players are different. So the fact
that makes this
Korea,
even more impressive.
Exactly. The fact that Korea, like I saw this OWC roster get released for Korea, and there be only 3 players the same from Corsace, and I was pretty much instantly Korea pilled because like if you have so much depth that your tryout results say no, we don't want most of the team that got 4th place in Corsace Open for our OWC team, that says the rest of those players that are actually in there have to be really fucking good. Because if you're gonna sub out over half of your team that got top 4 in an open rank international tournament for OWC, that's depth.
Yeah.
Oh, and they lost Flying Tuna and Karina. Also,
right.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah, 2 big losses.
Because of those 2.
Yeah, just about
it's like, no, we're actually better now.
Apparently, yeah. One more thing I wanted to add is it's kind of funny that this is the match where the US lost because by all, statistics, this has been the USA's best match this tournament. They had 5 players in the top 20, 5 top scores, right? I think if they go up against anybody who's not South Korea, they win in dominant fashion. But this match has made the USA look beatable, and so there's going to be a little bit less pressure, I think, for the rest of the teams going up against them. That being said, there is now an extremely terrifying losers bracket for all the teams that aren't South Korea and Germany.
Yeah, it's a super scary losers bracket, and we'll get to that in a couple minutes. But like, it's terrifying how many good teams are still left out of the everybody out of these 6 is scary. I do want to move on to briefly touch on the other couple of matches in the losers bracket, like really briefly, because it really felt like there wasn't a lot going on, as well as the other winners bracket match. So unless anybody has any final thoughts on USA South Korea, so we had the other match, of course. It almost feels like an afterthought, but the winners bracket final, right? Poland versus Germany. This was just Germany as a team being better than Malashevsky as a player. I don't really know how much more there is to say about that than that. We've said since the beginning of the tournament that Poland was like Malashevsky 1v9, and that's kind of what happened here. He put up the best performance scores of the week, and it wasn't even vaguely close, and they lost 6-3 anyway. This just felt like Germany was always the better team and always going to be the better team, and I don't know how much more there is to talk about than that.
I think you pretty much got it. It's exactly what everybody said last week when we all predicted Germany. White Cat and Kriller have no problem matching Malashevsky, and from there, Germany is just better than Poland.
Yeah, I don't know. I was casting this match. Malashevsky played all 9 maps and top scored 7 of them and had 900k average score, and they still lost because the rest of Poland just isn't that good anymore in semifinals. Which kind of sucks because this is a team that had a lot of potential at the start of the tournament and then seems to have fallen off against the best squads, which is really the difference.
I really like this. I really like this German team this year. Of all of the perceived top teams before this tournament, the only one to get to winners finals seemingly without any hiccups are Germany. Obviously, Poland, I think we predicted them around 4th. They are going to drop to this German team who would be predicted around 2nd or 3rd pretty handedly. And then obviously we don't know if this Germany team is here because they haven't seen the boogeyman that is South Korea yet. But obviously USA and Canada, the other 2 top 4 teams, not having such a great time against that squad. But this German squad has kind of yet to see any massive opposition. And I'm really going to be excited to see what happens in that match this week, which I think we're going to talk about in the next segment. So
Yeah.
Okay, so the only way Poland actually like gets top 3 is, again, if they're like, if the other 3 players besides Malashevsky that play for each map don't like just throw in the towel, because you have statistically the most dominant player there maybe ever was in any OWC ever. Obviously, this is like citation needed, but it really does feel that way. And you have the rest of your roster, which is theoretically like they can put up respectable scores to support him, but as long as we don't see that, they're not getting far. Like, obviously they've already done a lot.
I mean,
They've
top
gotten
6.
top 6, yes.
Yeah.
But this roster could have potentially been top 3. This roster could have potentially been top 2, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But all they needed to do was just try a little bit harder. Like, I hate to say this because it sounds like, oh, you know, all they needed to do was grind a little bit more. But, like, it really feels like Malashevsky's carrying the country on their back, and they're just kind of, like, kicking and screaming and not letting him. It's... I don't know, man. Like, I'm a little bit disappointed by what I see from Poland this year because I know they could have been so much better.
I feel like their team went how we expected, though. I don't know. I don't know how much better they really could have been.
Yeah,
I think this was kind of
this
the
is
expectation.
yeah, I mean, keep in mind, right? This is not the Bartek and Rafis from previous years where you expect them to put really good scores. It's kind of fallen onto the shoulders of those other 3 Polish carries and Malashevsky especially.
Yeah, so the like this I don't know, the second semifinal, this one just felt like an afterthought, unfortunately. Like, really good job to Germany. They're clearly the least thus far the least challenged team in the tournament. But
Typical
they got
number 3 seeds.
I will also say they like got a pretty solid bracket. Like, they got the other side from South Korea, they got the other side from USA. And they had Canada, and they got the other side from Canada as well. So
Yeah.
like, really, really solid bracket to get the teams that they got, but they've also been performing as expected, which is all you can hope for. So looking good for Germany. Other 2 segments of the bracket, right? So we had the top half of losers and the bottom half of the losers. There's not a lot to talk about here in the top half of the losers bracket from this week, right? Like, again, the matches went as you'd expect. Hong Kong blew out Indonesia 6-1. Canada beat Australia 6-3, and then Canada just like, they finished against Hong Kong by like one. It was like what, 1-0 in USA versus South Korea, a match that started half an hour after Canada versus Hong Kong.
And match was a complete
that match
speed
ended.
run.
Yeah, they speedran that part of the bracket was just a speedrun, and I feel like it's, again, like the situation with Australia is very similar to Poland, where you have Emrek, who didn't even wake up for this match, so he was like not warm at all and didn't play super well. So that was like absolute worst case scenario. Indonesia fell off against Hong Kong. Like, I don't know. Is there anything that you can even analyze here other than that the teams that won were just better?
Can I analyze something? Why is it this week? Why have we had this week like true cases of someone absolutely not giving a shit about their team? Like, what is happening?
True. They get all the way to
God.
semis week, and they Emrek. Well, to be fair, that's always been Emrek. Like, they had to freaking beg him to play on the team. He's already said he won't play next year unless X, Y, and Z all play next year. Like, the dude just does not seem to care much about OWC in general.
No.
I mean,
No.
he could just stream and make more money than OWC makes him if they won it anyway. So like, what does he care? He's just the best solo player in the world, and he's content with that. I don't think he's driven to be a great tournament player. And then the
At least
Nanoya
not
thing,
in OWC.
the Nanoya thing, like, I don't even want to talk about.
I mean,
that
even
was just cringe.
Tournaments in general, right? Like, look at Corsace. He was on the winning team, but didn't actually show up until the last match. And so just in general, it doesn't feel like he's super motivated to play tournaments.
Yeah. I don't know. I think one thing that the top half of losers bracket does tell us is how well teams have scaled into the semifinals, particularly for Canada. They can beat Australia 6-3. Yes, Emrek showed up not warm and all that. But Hong Kong clearly scaled way better into semifinals than Indonesia. And then Canada swept them in the fastest matchup of the semifinals, right? So I think that says something at least about the strength of Canada as a team, that they are still a pretty solid team overall, especially against a Hong Kong roster that has the potential to get the number one score on some of the maps in the pool. They had the number one score on Free Mod 1 in their matchup against Indonesia. So for Canada to sweep them says that Canada is still a team that scales extremely well into the semifinals and can still hold up there with the best of them, which is potentially useful for talking about the matchups in finals weekend, because you do have Canada versus Poland going on, and I kind of expect that to go similarly to how we've seen in the semifinals for some of the other matches already.
With Zudi playing this well, I mean, you kind of have to be scared. She's playing almost as well as Malashevsky in a lot of these matches. What is she on the leaderboard? Is she like second or
I
third
think she was
among
number
overall?
2. I think she was number 2 for this
Yeah.
week.
She was
Or
Number
no.
2.
number
No,
5.
dropped to number 5
She was
this
number
week,
5
yeah.
for semifinals, yeah. I feel like Zudi is like, maybe it's just my perception of it, but I feel like Zudi is like the most underrated tournament player.
She is
Because she
also
doesn't-
Just because she can't play speed. Just
because she can't play speed, but like she gets to the finals of open rank 1v1s without being able to play speed. Like
Yeah.
that says a lot about how good she is at literally everything else in the game.
As
One
you're
other
saying,
thing.
she can't play speed. She FC'd DT3
And she FC'd
like
the
twice,
DT3,
no?
yeah.
Yeah, she was top scorer in speed maps for Canada in that Hong
Yeah.
Kong match with players like Xylice and Ryuke on the team. So
It's insane.
she's
so good.
learning speed, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, the other thing to point out is she is far and away the best rated player out of the losers bracket. She had by the performance score metric, a better performance than Crystal did last weekend, which, that says a lot. Crystal was really damn good in the semifinals, not to discredit, the performance from the rest of China, as we've talked about, but Crystal was the reason why they made it into top 6 in the matchup versus Russia, right? When Fia was kind of being felt out and couldn't really use the same types of programs to get ridiculous
Dada, you good,
scores.
bro?
Crystal
Oh my.
Crystal really popped it off.
Yeah, I guess the
What's up,
last
Dada?
thing what is... Anyways, I'm not going to comment on that. I think Zudinator played honestly even better than her individual performance showed. Like she probably was a top 2 performer. I think she got her individual performance tanked a little bit in that Hong Kong match because they did play back to back. So I imagine she was a little bit tired. But if you look at her performance in the Australia match, she played 7 maps, FC'd 5 of them. The only 2 she didn't FC was both of the free mods because she had hidden hard rock on those, so got 500k. But she played insanely well this weekend, and so that's a very much a bright spot for Canada going into finals weekend.
So then, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Canada can do in the last couple weeks here. And then the last couple matches, obviously, we kind of covered already, right? Because that's the China situation. Not really much you can say here because
We covered it.
I
Yeah.
mean, Russia versus France, I guess we could talk about because Russia is quite good. But other than that, the other 2 matches obviously are now invalidated, right? So unless Dada, I don't know. People have stuff they want to say about this. Dada's got stuff. Dada's got stuff he wants to say. I'll give him like 5 minutes here, and then we're gonna move on because I want to do predictions without this taking a year and a half. So say your part here, Mr. Dada, and then we'll see.
I told you last week, if I was the only dissenting opinion on any of the matches, and it was this one where I chose Russia instead of France, and I was right, I wouldn't let you hear the end of it, and
Oh, Jesus.
I'll let you hear the end of it because I think the difference on this match was just how hard rock for France looked very shaky, and they even opted into picking hard rock rather than some other maps that maybe would have favored them a little bit more. And Russia just kind of took that and ran away with it. I think if they, instead of picking that hard rock shoe that one time, like they just picked something maybe a little bit less like risky, I guess they could have gotten the tiebreaker. And I think on tiebreaker, I definitely favor France. But like, yeah, it happened that I don't think they picked particularly well. and they got beat. That's basically it. Congrats to Russia for playing well, and congrats to France also, because France played pretty well as well, and it's their best placement in however many years.
France just wins Akoro maps and loses not Akoro maps.
Pretty much.
I think, let's see. So there's one, not two. So what, 3 of the 4 maps that they won in that match, Akoro top scored, like by a lot on their team? For how
Yeah,
good their team is, that's kind of surprising to me that he was like the make or break. I know he's really good, but I thought kind of the team behind him would be better. But also, Russia's been impressive too.
Yeah, I think the key for Russia was that Tester really popped off, someone who has not been a top performer for them, but was in for 4 maps this time and top scored 3 of them. So they just played really well as well.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one
Moving
match in
on.
this. There's only one match in this segment to talk about, and it's just that Russia beat France. The other two, I like prayers up for Crystal. That was some of the best performances I've seen out of just about anyone, and it doesn't matter. Can I get an F in chat for Crystal? Because goddamn, that guy is like, I think the best player ever in semifinals. Because
Something like that,
if
yeah.
you guys remember, I pointed this out a couple days ago. 2020, China versus Indonesia in the semifinals. He put up like a 2.4 match cost. I don't know. Crystal's just fucked. Crystal's just fucked in semifinals. I feel so bad for the guy and the rest of that team. But we do get Russia versus Romania, and that's gonna be the topic of our first prediction for this week. So we should be able to get switched over to that. So this is a carryover match, as we all know, from the beginning segment, right? This is the 2 teams that lost to China, so now they get to play against each other for a spot against the United States in the finals week. So this is a semifinals match that is now in finals week, and boy, so is Nanoya gonna exist for this match? Is he gonna be completely mental boom again?
He's practicing the pool, seemingly, as
he's baby raging in Netpool feedback in OWC server. Dada is off the screen.
He's gone.
Dada's gone. Dada's gone.
Netpool feedback has ruined him. Stop typing in there for his own sake.
Delete the channel.
It's super funny to me that Romania has been just this giga active team in map pool feedback, and it's always super negative. They were finally gone because they got eliminated, and then they got brought back, and they're no longer gone, and you knew it instantly. But yeah, let's go start with, I don't know, let's say Miles here. What's a prediction? Romania, Russia, semifinals pool. Remember, we're not going to the finals pool yet, obviously, for this match.
Semifinals, I was a believer in France against this Russia team, but Russia, I think they showed their ability. I'm going to have to retroactively believe in Dada here, and I'm going to choose Russia over Romania in this matchup because I would only really put Romania over Russia on gimmickier maps, and that's a lot of that's just the Badu factor. But you saw Russia was able to take a break point against that France team, and I just kind of like their chances if they're gonna be more rounded than I expected. I don't think Romania can beat this team on speed. That's going to be a free 3 or 4 points for Russia. And I think they're going to get the job done elsewhere as well, even if Romania might win some aim picks with some of their strong aim players. But I'm going to say probably 6-3 or 6-4 in favor of
Russia. Okay. It's simple, right? It's a simple prediction.
It's simple.
Half of Romania's team, or at least a quarter of Romania's team, does not want to play the tournament anymore. Russia wants to keep playing the tournament, presumably, given how much shit they stirred against Fia in that whole situation. I think Russia wants it more. I think Russia has a decent matchup as well, team-wise. So I'm going to go Russia 6-4. Not 6-4 because it's best of 13s now.
No, this is 11. This is still 11 because this is still semifinals.
Oh yeah, true.
Everything after this is best of 13, but this particular match is best of 11.
This is a Russia 6-3, 6-4 maybe, but this is only in the context of Romania's mental. So I think in a normal situation this would be pretty even and could potentially go either way.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I'm gonna also have to swap over to the Russia side. I think they're gonna take it 6-3. They've just looked better in the semifinals so far. Eternum, who has been the standout player for Romania, has not put up nearly as good of a performance on the semifinals pool. And so, unless Eternum can really pop off and turn it around, I think it's going to be a pretty decisive win for Russia. They should win all the speed, they should win all the DTs. And Romania just doesn't have that many clear points.
Um. All right, I am looking at how I can make a case for Romania to win here. I don't like it. I don't like being. I don't like when we have predictions and it's just like, oh yeah, all doom and gloom for one team. Nope, just 5-0 for Russia. Go next. But all right, Russia's gonna ban free mod 3 and hidden 2, right? Romania got the #1 score on free mod 3 in the entire weekend, and they did it versus China. And Romania probably is not getting to play hidden 2 because Badou's scaling is nuts compared to most of the other players on Romania's team. Aside from that, I think you're looking at like Hard Rock 3 for Romania. You're looking at Hidden 3 for Romania, maybe Hidden 1. Also, I don't think the Russia gimmick players are particularly good on Hidden this year. And then you're looking at like Nomad 4 for Romania. So I think they have picks that they can go for that are really solid. The trouble then becomes what they go for after those maps, because Russia's really good on Nomad ult. They're good at Nomad 3 this weekend, just looking at the scores from it. They're good at a lot of the free mods as well, like the free mod 4. Romania can maybe force the tiebreaker if they can win a no mod 1 or a free mod 1. So I think, but I don't think they win breakpoints, right? I do not think Romania wins breakpoints because the strength of the picks for Russia is out of this world on most of the DTs. So I think, and I'm gonna go Romania so that we can have one person at least rooting for Romania. Very likely, I think Russia's going to win, but I think Romania can win in tiebreaker if they are able to pick well, pick into the alt maps, avoid the no mod 3, pick one aim map, either the no mod 1 or the free mod 1 at the end of the round, and win that. And then they can force the tiebreaker. And just like what we saw from South Korea, I think this tiebreaker can be pretty good for Romania against Russia. It's going to be a hard match if Romania is going to win it, but I think there is a route to victory. So I'm going to put my vote in for Romania.
All right, so Russia bans free mod 3 hidden 2. Romania bans free mod 2 and then like DT2 or DT3.
DT2, probably DT2.
Russia picks Nomad 2, DT1, DT3, DT4, wins all 4 of them handily in most cases. Romania picks like whatever's left. They pick, I don't know, Nomad 4, Hard Rock 3, maybe Nomad 3, free mod 4, maybe? That's a super maybe? Russia wins all their picks, and I think they're more likely to get a breakpoint. So I think Russia wins, but it's like 6-4. If Romania can somehow pull out a breakpoint on a DT, I don't think they will, but if they do, that would be the way that they can win this match. Or if they can just win all of their maps and go to tiebreaker, because it's tech tiebreaker, and we've already talked about all that, how that goes.
Not a, oh yeah, no, yeah.
It is because it's semifinals pool. Yeah, it's semifinals pool.
I'm always getting confused with this. I also don't think they necessarily. Let me look at semifinals pool again because it's off my mind.
I mean, Russia wins HRs.
Okay,
too,
I don't
think
they necessarily ban free mod 3, and I don't think Russia picks DT4 after what happened with them against France specifically.
I mean, I think Russia still has enough picks though that they have enough picks that they're super favored on to like worst case force TV. But I think I think Russia is the team more likely to get a breakpoint in this, which is why I think that Russia is going to be the team that wins it.
Yeah, Romania also bottom scored DT4, so I think Russia absolutely does pick that, as they got the third best score on it.
But I think Russia's just too good at tapping, and there's enough tapping maps to only need one other pick. Which, I mean, I guess we saw that be the downfall of the United States, right? They ran out of tapping maps, and they lost their last pick and went to tiebreaker and lost. But I think in this particular matchup, it's not like the same. It doesn't play out the same way. So we got 4-1. We got Russia, but there's a way that we've outlined. There's a way for Romania to get into this. Next match after that is one of the only two other matches that's actually set already. It's Poland versus Canada. And I'm just going to start this out by saying this goes exactly the same way that Poland versus Germany went, because Canada has a better team. Poland still has Ristel Malashevsky. He's still going to put up a ton of really good scores. He could top score 9 out of 9 maps, and it wouldn't matter because they'd still lose 6-3. And I think that's exactly what happens here. Canada is just a really good roster. We saw them abuse free mods in the last week because they will always have a hidden player and a hard rock player for pretty much everything, and it's a huge problem for a lot of other teams this round, other than there's like maybe 2 teams that can compete with Canada on these free mods. But I think Canada is just too strong as a full roster compared to Poland to have Malashevsky and then do your best rest of the team, but it's probably not good enough. Canada wins this. It's like 6-2, 6-3.
Okay, so Poland...
Or 7-3, 7-4. I apologize.
Canada has, on paper, arguably a top 2 speed roster, a top 2 or 3 aim roster, and Poland has been winning a lot of their points off of those aimier and techier maps. I think Canada sweeps on speed, and even if Poland wins a lot of those aim or tech picks, I think Canada is good enough to break point at least once, which is why I'm going to go for Canada, and I think it's going to be about 6-2, maybe 6-3.
7.
7.
7-2-7.
No. No. But yeah, like I think the wild card in this matchup are the more gimmickier maps, because obviously Poland is really good at that with obviously Malashevsky, but players backing him like Bartek and Mishny on those types of maps are going to be extraordinarily strong, in which I don't really know who Canada has backing Zudi on those maps. Theoretically, Saryi and Yip. And probably Zylas going in there doing his best, but not really sure how he's going to do on this Fremont 3. That one is really difficult, and I think Poland is probably going to win that map in particular, but I'm not going to be doing the pool analysis here. I'm just going to go with my gut, and my gut is in the way north.
Yeah, I'm sick of doing pool analysis and ending up being wrong, so it's just not worth the time anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll preface this by saying 2 things. First of all, I think if nobody in this panel goes for Poland, I'll be extremely surprised, because I think they have a very good shot. Canada does not have nearly the depth that they might need for around this time. So if any of their players have a bad day, then this means that they'll have a bad day on essentially every map, because they have a core of 3 that essentially stays for most maps, and then they rotate 1, at most 2 people for a couple of maps. So if any of them have a bad day, this is a very, very close matchup, just waiting to happen, an upset waiting to happen. That being said, I still favor Canada because they are objectively the better team. They have the better scores, they have the better, everything statistically, and they pass the eye test much more than Poland ever did. I will say that I believe this is going to be 7-5, and if it goes to tiebreaker, I can see it going Poland's way.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. Actually, I am not gonna be the dissenter on this one, but
Wow,
I
the
do think
the Canadian panelist is
God.
picking
Canadian
Canada. Holy
picks
shit.
Canada to win. Who would have thought? But no, I do think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people might think. I'm going to go 7-5 as well. I think Canada does have a strong core of Zudi, Xylise, and Ryuke. But after that, a lot of their players have not been really stepping up so far this tournament. I think Malashevsky will probably solo carry a few maps. I think Canada will probably randomly int at least one map, like the Nomad 2 from semifinals, where they all shit missed on,
They just
on like
died.
nothing and died, yeah. And so I do think it's going to be at least close. But at the end of the day, I think the core 3 from Canada is going to be more than enough to beat Malashevsky. And Canada does have a fair amount of depth to their roster. Players like Rupershin and Curtis we know they have the ability to put up strong scores on these pools, but I just don't think we've seen that, or I have seen that as much as I would like to see from this Canada team to say that's going to be a decisive win. So I think it's going to be 7-5.
Theo's going to be the dissenter here because he feels the need to be, and he's going to
He
say
has
it's
to
because
be.
of Ristel. And
Y'all
that's
really
pretty much what
putting me
we've all
on the
been saying
spot.
anyway.
However, no, it's Canada. I had Canada.
Sorry, Poland.
Yeah, sorry, Poland.
Guys, we love you.
I
swear.
Before we get Twitter screenshot, I did say it's very doable for you. Come on.
It is very doable. It is very doable.
I want to say this is what we've been saying. Like, this is what we said last week. This is what we're saying this week again. Where like there are ways for the team that we're predicting against to win, but the odds are not in their favor. So before the Twitter screenshots come out, before I get ratioed by Karsher after literally complimenting him, I'm not salty about that at all. Like we are saying there's a way. It's just not the most likely outcome.
Yeah.
There you go. Well said.
Yeah, Poland's a really good aim team. There are lots of aim maps in this pool. There is also the potential for Canada to flop. They flopped on the Nomad 2 versus Australia, for example. UK did not go in on the DT3 against Hong Kong, or no,
No, it was against Australia, and then he did against Hong Kong, and they improved their team score by like 600k.
Yeah,
so like
exactly.
they learned.
But like if that happens, just comparing the scores directly, Poland beats Canada's score without UK. So there are ways where if Canada mispicks their players, mispicks their roster, mispicks the maps, that Poland can still win. Poland is also probably the best team at Hidden One in the tournament. They beat Canada's score by like 300k, and Canada's also is not close with the next teams that come afterwards on that Hidden One from semifinals, if memory serves. It's like China's 100k down, Hong Kong's 100k off that, and then Germany is 450k down from that. So, like, the gap between Poland and most of the other teams is pretty large on that type of skill set, especially with Hidden. So there are lots of ways for Poland to take points. That said, I think the anti-scaling for Poland will only be stronger. I think their other members are going to continue getting worse faster than Canada's will. I think they are going to be more skill capped aside from Malashevsky than the rest of Canada. So I think it's actually going to be easier for Canada to win this than some of the other people here have said. I think it's like 7-3-ish on this match, because I think that it's far easier for Canada to take breakpoints, especially on stuff like the Hidden 3 or the Hidden 2, which are things that Poland probably wants to pick. I think it's also easy for Canada to take breakpoints on things like the Nomad 1, Nomad 3, which are probably picks for Poland. So I think it's easier for Canada to take breakpoints. I think their scaling is going to be better into finals, and I think they're going to win most of the time because of that. It's still possible for Poland to win, again, if Canada mispicks or has a rougher roster and Malashevsky continues to pop off, or somebody on Canada has a bad day, especially Zudinator or Ryuke. But yeah, probably Canada. Same thing that happened versus Germany.
Also, bearing in mind, I will say regarding the scaling thing, finals is like the round that Canada always like gets outscaled on in the past, but against this Poland team, I don't think it's as big of a concern.
It's not that they get outscaled. It's just that they've always faced the US because they're always number 2
They
seeds.
face like US or Germany, and they just get rolled. All right, so 5-0 for that one, unfortunately. So now things get this is where things start to get a little murky, because we start to talk about potentials for potentials and then potentials. But we're gonna do it anyway because it's fun and that's what we're here for. So the first of those matches is going to be USA versus the winner of Romania versus Russia, which we predicted to be Russia. And this puts us in a weird spot, because the USA is finally up against a team, assuming Russia beats Romania, they're finally up against a team who's actually good at tapping. They have not played a single good tapping team yet in this tournament, and they've won or gotten as far as they did against South Korea because of tapping. So this makes for a very interesting matchup. I don't think they've ever lost to Russia, though, right? Have they ever? They face Russia like every other year, and they never lose to them. It's always like semifinals, and they never lose.
Never since 2015, at least.
There you go.
So Somebody can start us off on this one. I just wanted to get that background in there.
Okay, can I start it off?
By all means.
Okay,
for it.
US 7-1. I know, funny score for coming from me at least.
Ah, Brazilian.
Brazil!
I get it. I get it. Bra 7
But-
1L.
However,
Russia wins one of the DTs. The US bans the other, like, extremely straining DT, and then they just outskill Russia on most of the other aspects of the pool. I think there's no way that Russia can win this match, but stranger things have happened. I just don't see it though. I think US 7-1, maybe 7-2 if they enter bans, but yeah, sorry.
Well, I guess I can go next. I'm going to go ahead and say USA 7-0. I think this match is going to be honestly pretty uninteresting. Yes, Russia has historically been the DT team. Yes, they're a tapping team. But why don't we actually take a look at the stats on those DTs from semifinals and guess who top scored every single DT? It's the United States.
By some crazy chance. Holy wow.
Yeah, and except for DT3, which they had banned out against them. I
they
mean,
didn't play
USA
that,
is
so.
just far and away the better team. They top scored 5 maps in semifinals, despite losing. They were statistically far and away the best team in the tournament still, and so I think this one's going to be a blowout.
all right. I'm gonna give the hot take. I'm gonna go Russia.
Let's go.
I'm gonna go Russia.
Dio the dissenter.
Dio.
I'm
I
gonna
want to hear the
Why?
reasoning for this after what we
Yeah,
heard from Dotto
let's
and
hear it.
Iceland.
Yeah. So, yes, I think the US does win speed against Russia. However, that is not the only thing that Russia is good at. And people seem to forget that because this team is actually good at other stuff. Like, you can't win 6 points just on speed in the semifinals. This is a team that wins Hard Rock against the US. They had the number 1 score on Hard Rock 1 this weekend against France. They had the number 2 score on Hard Rock 2 and number 6 score on Hard Rock 2, both better than the US's run on it versus Korea. They have very good scores on things like the No Mod 5 and the No Mod 3 from this pool. I think Russia shifts gears and against this US team becomes the gimmick squad,
Right.
which is weird because it's Russia, but that's actually a good shift
It's
for
the
them
strat
because
against
the US
USA this year.
it's the strat against USA. USA is a tapping team. They are probably better than Germany on speed this year, weirdly enough. I think that's a
maybe
hot
so.
take. It's contested, but like
Yeah.
there's a chance looking at some of the scores from semifinals, right? So I think what Russia does is they pick into maybe the No Mod 5 for them this week is pretty bad, but they pick into the Hard Rock gimmicky stuff. They pick into the free mod gimmicky stuff. They pick into the No Mod gimmicky stuff aside from the No Mod 5. And as long as they avoid the No Mod 4 in that No Mod pool, because USA has the best score on it, they have ways to get to the tiebreaker at the very least. And I think maybe they lose the tiebreaker. Look, it's really hard to vote Russia against the USA here, but like there is a route for them to win if they can win some gimmicky picks and then take a break point on one of the speed maps, right? Like there is a chance that this USA roster flops. We spent like 20 minutes roasting them earlier in the broadcast, calling them the weakest team since 2014 from the United States. So like there's a chance they drop a break point, all right? Real.
Real.
Dion's got the wild
Fake.
take. I'm
Fake.
here for it, man. Why not?
Not
you know?
real. Not real.
Full disclosure, I think that is probably a clinically insane take. However, I'm going to go with it anyway and keep it up here for
at least
the
we have some
spicy Twitter
self-awareness, right?
screenshots after this broadcast is
Okay,
over.
full disclosure, like he has USA like 7-1 on Pick'em site.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
Russia on
Exactly.
the broadcast.
I've done that at least once. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, my pickups are like 7-4 USA or something, but don't worry
Did
about it. We do
Cavo
this for
share
Twitter.
some of his water before they started?
Yeah, whatever
Yeah, that's what I
Cavo's
was gonna
taking,
say.
I think Dio got some.
Oh my god.
Miles, what you got?
Okay. So I'm gonna say USA 7-1. I'm gonna agree with portions Dada said, but also portions Dio said. I don't think the USA will ban speed, but Hard Rock on Russia is very good. We've seen that players like Vacman, like Ciccone, like Dan have been playing really well on that mod, and I think the United States is going to look at that and they're going to be like, well, you know what? They can be good at speed because you know what? We also are pretty good at speed. And you know what? Maybe we're a little more RNG on these hard rock picks. I think they're going to double ban HR. I think
Can't.
Oh yeah. Funny tourney rules. Ha ha ha. You can't.
Yeah, you can't double ban, but you can double pick.
There you go.
Whatever.
You can triple
Okay.
pick if you want.
Yeah, you could quad pick if the other team didn't pick any DT. It didn't ban any DTs. You just DT1,
Yeah.
DT2, DT3, D4.
I know what I'm talking about, guys. I'm fucking yeah, they're gonna ban one of the hard rocks. They'll ban another, like maybe one of the Amy or free mods. Maybe they'll ban out Fighting Gold, that free mod 1, even though that is a fairly accessible map, I think, for everyone. But other than that, I think I'm gonna favor the United States on almost everything else. I don't think that Russia has what it takes to gimmick abuse the United States. Because even if they're weaker on gimmick this year, like put Russia's best gimmick roster against Fancy, Boshi, freaking Takedo, Utami. Like, do you really think that Russia's best gimmick roster can beat that on gimmick picks? I don't think so. So it'll go 7-1. Even if Dio was a clinically insane take, I just had to explain why it's wrong for the viewers at home who maybe
Fair enough.
VC.
So in a world where Russia does what Dio says they will, again, this is all assuming that Russia beats Romania, because I think if Romania beats Russia, USA actually wins more easily.
Yeah.
I think that's the easier opponent for the USA. So let's say Russia bans like Freemod 2 DT3 and embraces the non-tapping maps, and USA underperforms on all of the gimmicks again, and Russia overperforms on all of the gimmicks and all of the stuff that isn't tapping. USA still wins like 7-5. That's like the worst case scenario for USA. So USA wins this. USA wins this, and it's like 7-3, 7-4. Because the best case scenario is probably Russia getting like winning 3, maybe 4 of their own picks and probably losing a break point, and that's like the deciding factor. I would honestly, despite being American and despite being a big fan of the American teams, part of me kind of wants to see Russia win this just for the fun of it, but I don't think it's possible. I think USA is going to want blood after losing last week. I have to think. I don't know anything about their team environment. I don't know what they're talking about in their server. That could be totally wrong. But I have to think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to be out for, like, to show the other teams left in the tournament that, yes, we are still the United States and we are still good. And I think they're going to be like, I would hope. I'm not going to say I will think. I will hope that they are practiced and they are prepared and they know their picks and bans and they come out and just sweep like the USA that we have come to expect.
A team to do that against the weakest team remaining in the tournament, by all accounts. The team that has already gotten eliminated, regardless of which one it is.
Yeah. So I think this is the time for USA to be like, to put their foot down and be like, we are still the USA, and you are not likely to forget that. So
I just want to take a moment to appreciate that Canada-Poland, arguably a very close match. We were able to agree on anonymously. Meanwhile, United States-Russia, we were not able to agree on because certain people, I won't name names, want to feel different.
Dio wants to be institutionalized. Dio wants to be institutionalized for this take.
I would like to be quote retweeted on Twitter. I want my ass beat in the quote.
I'll do it right now. I'll do it right now.
L plus
farming
ratio.
followers.
Yeah. Or alternatively, either that happens and I get to laugh about it, or Russia actually does win and I'm laughing my way to the bank.
If that happens,
it's good either way.
The biggest genius that ever existed.
All right.
I would do that if I didn't have a 4th place on Pick'ems to maintain.
That's true. That's true.
Last of the losers bracket matches. So this is like potential. This is way out there. But it's based on what we've got here. It's Canada versus the United States. It's the losers bracket quote-unquote final. I hate when people call it that because it's not actually the losers bracket final. It's the second to last match of the losers bracket. Dada really wants to start this off, but I do want to say that like they've only played each other maybe once in OWC and in the finals in 2020, and USA just kind of stomped that. This is a very different year. Dada is itching to get started here, so we're going to give it to Dada. I already know what he's going to say because otherwise he wouldn't look that excited. It's like, the SpongeBob, he's so excited thing.
I double bluffed you! US wins 7-4.
That's fine.
So here's what I think. Again, it's the same issue that I've said with Poland and Canada. Like, I think Canada like on average, is much closer to like destruction and being like not too good on this round than the US ever was. And Canada's speed roster is finally matched by the US's speed roster, which Canada's speed roster was their main strength essentially for the whole tournament. So I don't think there's much to say here. I think the US takes this 7-4, maybe 7-5, but you know it can be close. I think if I had to guess on this panel, I think we're going to see iFlame guess Canada and maybe Miles, maybe. But yeah.
Well, Miles, iFlame.
Uh,
What do you have to say
Miles,
about
go
that?
Okay. So we're bringing back the funny trope up top, Dada.
Can you
Put your hand on the
You
camera.
have to put your hand up so it looks like you're high-fiving. Other way. There you go. Oh my god. All right, you guys can. All right, moving on.
There it
Okay,
is.
yeah.
There it is.
It's-
High fiving.
I think it's not much of a question. I think it's gonna be United States by probably a similar score. I think it'll be 7-4, but I'm gonna put a few conditions on this. The conditions are Zudi Nader continues being inhuman on her maps. We are going to put her in the crazy carry category that you would put some other top players. But I think she's obviously going to be a little less rounded this week. I'm not sure if she can go in and fill speed anymore. But like, once again, as Dada said, Canada, their biggest strength has been speed throughout the whole tournament, going up against this United States team that has top scored every single freaking speed map just about. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that anymore. They're going to have to go to a traditional approach against this US team that also plays really well into Zudi's strengths, actually, in picking aim against the United States, which is something that teams like Germany have done really well in the last few years. But I think nonetheless, they can't really get that third prong. Like you need a win 2 of speed, aim, and gimmick. I guess like those are kind of like the three classes of picks you can classify. I think in order to effectively like predict a match, you have to give a team an edge on 2 of them. I think like they probably have the edge on aim. I would not give gimmick to them. I would not give speed to them, which is why I'm going to give the match to the USA. Probably 7-3. Could go +1 in either direction, but nonetheless, the outcome is the same.
8-3.
8-3.
Best
Wait
of
a
15.
minute.
Let's go.
No, not best of 15. No,
Hippocamp
no.
is here.
Oh, hey Dada, remember that? Remember the first best of 15?
I hate
match ever
you. I
played?
hate
Remember
both
the
of
first-
you. No.
I loved casting that. It was my favorite. It was like
I'm sure
3
it
hours
was.
long.
we-
All right.
We won that TV by 1,000,000 points, Dada.
iFlame.
Well, I think I will. If I don't, Dio's gonna do it because, of course, he is. So I guess I'll predict Canada. You know, as the resident Canadian, I have to do it every single year. I have so much hope for this team. You know, I'm like, this is the year. Okay, they can do it. 2020, they got swept by Germany in grand finals to get third. Last year, 7-5 to South Korea to get fourth. Every year they come so close, and I'm just so disappointed. But I'm ready to have my heart broken again. So I'll say Canada in tiebreaker for no reason other than hard copium.
Are you a Maple Leafs fan? Just a question. Are
Absolutely
you a Maple
not.
Leafs fan?
Don't accuse me of that.
Nobody's actually a Leafs fan. I don't think anybody. Even
People just live in
Absolutely not.
Toronto. They're not Leafs fans. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I am living in Canada right now, so I am also going to go Canada because why the hell not? Which is
Let's
also
go,
the reason why I
Dio.
voted Canada against Poland instead of being the contrarian for Poland. I think this can still be pretty close. I think the U.S. had a really strong week last week and still got beat by South Korea, which is really saying something else. Which is why they are the top scorer on 3 out of the 4 DT maps, all of them that they played. Canada is the top scorer on both DT3 and Free Mod 2, the only 2 speed maps that the USA did not play last weekend. And they were number 2 on DT1, DT2, as well. They did not play DT4. So basically, any map where the USA is number one, Canada is right behind them. And on the maps where USA didn't play, Canada is the best one there. There is very real chances of breakpoints coming through for Canada on the speed picks from the US. And Canada does have, I think, a more decisive advantage on some of the free mod picks, particularly the stuff like free mod 3, the stuff like the hidden 3 and hidden 1 they are also very strong on. I think they are really, really strong on the no mod 3 as well and no mod 1. So I think this team can abuse the aim, can abuse the like flow aim control style picks and win a break point on one of the speed maps for the US. We saw what happened against South Korea, that once the US ran out of speed picks, they couldn't close it out against South Korea, and they were able to get the breakpoint for South Korea's side and close it out. I think the same thing can happen for Canada in this match in finals, so I'm going to go Canada.
Oh, Canada. My home and native land. Sorry, I'm picking United States. I unironically want Canada to win this match, but I don't think they can. I think USA just scales better. That's really
fair.
all there is to it. I think the USA just outscales. I think, again, like Dio was saying, there's a chance that Canada can win some of the picks that they're super good at and steal a break point somewhere. But I think USA just outscales on finals pool, and they will play as well as they did last week in all likelihood, relative to the pool difficulty on the tapping stuff, and they will have more likely a better third and fourth for things than Canada does, because Canada has some players who are going to start getting outscaled really badly on this round once you get to this hard of a pool. So USA wins like 7-4, 7-5, something like that. If Canada gets an early break point and can get some momentum, they could actually have a route to winning this. But I think USA is just better overall, top to bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, historically, Canada does tend to get outscaled by this either finals or grand finals. And this year, it's going to be pretty tough for them as well. I think as good as that core three of, Zudi, Xylice, and Ryuk are, none of them have been, that player like Malashevsky or Karcher who have just consistently popped off on every single map. Zudi has been incredible. But against how much depth the US has, it's going to be really hard, very unlikely. But you know what? There's 4 days until the match, so I have at least 4 days until I have to be sad. So I'm going to hold on to my copium.
All right.
Now the copium picks. We got 2 people picking Canada, and I see a world where they win. Now, last but absolutely not least, winners bracket final. Winners bracket final. One of these teams, I think a lot of people expected to be here. The other team, people very much did not. South Korea, Germany. Just to put some stats on paper, of course, South Korea looked really, really good last week. They played 5 maps in common, these two teams did. Germany won between these two teams, Hard Rock 2 and DT1, and South Korea won, shockingly, No Mod 2, but also Hidden 3 and Free Mod 1. Pretty evenly matched on paper, based on what we saw last week. And both of these teams, Germany has looked like the team that's kind of on this indomitable run through the winners bracket. Like, they really haven't been challenged yet. South Korea's got that dog in them, though. They've got the Mamba mentality going on. They've got the late round covered with their couple of big carries, similarly to how Germany does. So, winners final. One of these two teams guaranteed top 2. Which one is it going to be? Who's most excited to talk about this?
Can I start?
It's got to be Dio.
Can I start?
It's got to be Dio.
No, I'll go last.
from right to
I'll go
left.
last.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let me go
Okay.
last on this.
Let's
one.
do the airman pattern. Go Dio T1G.
There we go.
Actually,
The airman
this is-
pattern.
Dio
No,
T1G, iFlame, Miles me? Or
There we go. There we go.
Sure.
We're doing the airman.
Okay.
All right.
South Korea got that dog in them. I am just South Korea pilled. I talked about this before when we were, at the start of the broadcast, but maybe people missed it. This team replaced 5 members from the Corsace team, no title, and is still guaranteed top 3 in OWC. I think this team has just got it in them. They're going to win. They're going to take the same strategy against Germany that they took against the US and Canada, and it's going to work again. And I think that, on things like the No Mod 2, comparing the scores, South Korea has a chance at taking a break point on maps like that, and that's something they're going to leave up for Germany as opposed to banning it out. They're probably going to ban out stuff like the DT2, the Free Mod 2, and leave up stuff where they have the potential to take a break point. Germany, I really feel bad voting against Germany because there's a JoJo map in the pool this week. Germany's got the JoJo collab, and we are blood brothers. However, Korea Cinderella story. I'm here for it. I'm about it. I want to see it happen. I want South Korea top 2 in every World Cup this year across all game modes. I'm ready to see it happen.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really mentioned because, it's as OWC, it's not strictly as relevant, but South Korea is just the best OSU team in the world, not just OSU standard or country in the world, not just OSU standard, but 4K, 7K, Taiko, CTV, they don't care. They just get podium in every single World Cup. Absolutely ridiculous out of them. This is such a hard match to predict for me, though. I think it's on the one hand, it's really hard to predict against a team that just beat the freaking United States. You beat the final boss, and now you're going up against the not quite so final boss in Germany, who have, number 2 the last couple of years. Not really the same ring to it. But on the other hand, Germany has looked just kind of dominant against everyone.
They passed the eye
played.
test. They passed the eye test. That's
Germany,
for sure.
Both teams will pass the eye test, though, right? South Korea won the last 3 maps in a row, won against USA, won the last 4 maps in a row against Canada. Clearly they've got this innate mystical ability to win when the odds are stacked against them. And it is for that reason that I'm picking Germany here, because I'm actually secretly picking South Korea. I'm actually secretly picking South Korea by picking Germany. Because this is when South Korea is at their best, is when people don't think that they're going to win. People think that they're going to lose, and they just draw strength from it. They muster up this gumption that few other nations have been able to show this year. And Germany just plays all the mechanic stuff and they win it all. And then they say, Kriller, go fight. White Cat, go do stuff. And then South Korea says, no, we're actually not losing. This is the DRX strat, right? You just everybody expects you to lose, so you end up winning. So I'm picking Germany, but that doesn't mean what you might think it means. I think Germany actually, it's super hard to pick against a team that just beat the United States. But they've got Kriller, they've got White Cat, they're on the up and up. They've got some very good late round scaling players, and I do think that if the match goes the way that it probably will, Germany is favored, especially because they're actually favored on the tiebreaker in a way that Canada and the United States both were not favored on the previous 2 weeks tiebreakers. So I think Germany wins 7-6.
Well, I think it's going to be incredibly close. Either way, I think this is by far the hardest match. But I have predicted against South Korea, first against Canada, then against the US. I was wrong both times, and I'm going to let them prove me wrong again. I think I'm going to go Germany 7-6. I love the South Korea team. I think it's so exciting that they were the ones to finally take down the USA. But I also think when you look at the tournament outside of the semifinals round, they have been statistically the weakest team in the top 5 throughout most of the tournament. They had an incredible performance in semifinals that was second only to the USA. But I do think Germany has slightly better scaling. It's hard for me to say that, players like Allegrissimo are going to be able to scale players like Okinamo, even Neox. And I also think it's really going to be a very top 2 heavy match, right? So on the side of South Korea, you have Karcher and you have Worst HR player who have been incredible. But so far for Germany, Kriller and White Cat, again, outside of the semifinals round, have been performing a little bit better than those 2. And I think unless we see a ridiculous pop off from those 2 again, I do think this German team scales a little bit better, should have the better supporting players and have throughout most of the tournament. And so I think they're going to take it 7-6 in tiebreaker, but I do think it could go either way.
Okay, so I'm going to agree partially with I Flame and Aaron here. I'm gonna say that on paper, Germany should have an edge. In a way, I would kind of call it like David versus Goliath, and South Korea versus the United States is kind of like David versus Goliath. And against Canada, it was David versus Goliath. South Korea has got that dog in them.
They're the giant
And, you know,
killers, man.
Hell yeah, they got that dog in them.
They got that dog in them. As much as you want to give Germany an edge on like many skill sets, like a lot of it is going to be based on the star power. It's going to be what can Karcher do, what can White Cat and Kriller do, what can worst HR player do. But I think if I were to put a big label on anything in this match, it's going to be the backing players from South Korea, who a lot of us still have no freaking idea where they will stop being insane. Because, you know, when you talk about the previous tiebreakers, yeah, they'd favor South Korea because they were kind of tech, and this one is like kind of mechanics hell. You know what? That makes Karcher even stronger, but it might take worst HR player out of the occasion, and he was arguably their number 2 on both of those other tiebreakers. But at the same time, like South Korea, like at what point, like you could say, oh, they pulled off an insane comeback against Canada. They were lucky. They pulled off an insane comeback against.
At some
the
point,
United
it stops
States
being
as well.
luck, though.
What? Yeah, like
Yeah.
these guys have taken out teams that have fought against this Germany team, and I know it's finals week. The pool is harder than either of the other pools, but like I can't not believe in this South Korea team anymore. Like I believed in the US. I believed in Canada to beat them. I'm gonna say if South Korea does it in TB, but it's gonna be goddamn
Ooh.
close. And I am betting on the Karchening. The
Let's
fucking
go.
Karchening. He's gonna get 600k on that map. And
This is
Karch
a
all over
Karcher
them.
TB.
It's-
That
it's
is
hard.
true.
This is definitely the hardest match to predict so far this tournament, and I have eaten shit on every single close prediction so far. So I'm really happy to see that we're split 2-2 right now, and I see the guy to my right is
Dada
really,
is ready.
really-
Dada's ready. This is why we
really
have
hyped.
5 people. So we're
My
not split. Let's
friends.
go.
My friends. Everyone here has kind of predicted a close match. They've
Dada thinks it's
Predicted.
one-sided.
tiebreaker. Prediction France! What the hell?
Wait a minute.
Oh my god.
Okay. What was that?
Oh no.
Can I make the joke that it's still prediction France, or are those kinds of jokes not allowed anymore? Is that still allowed?
Allez le bleu, allez le bleu, allez le bleu.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
All right.
So,
Arrête.
everyone here has predicted it to be close. Everyone here has predicted either go to tiebreaker or be a very close match. I think South Korea's magic runs out. I think Germany is just such a complete team. They have the edge on a lot of skill sets, and the skill sets that South Korea has kind of relied upon to beat some of these bigger teams. Germany can contest them very, very well. I think, personally, Germany has like a very, very large chance to take this like 7-3. Like this, everyone's saying, "Oh, this is gonna go to tiebreaker." Like, show me the picks against this German roster that you can reliably score, because like their roster is just so well rounded. Even in maps where they're forced, I guess, in quotes, to play aimbot cone or to play rising or to play shark, like they still have like great like the great 3 players around that, and those players perform in a pretty good level most of the time. Like I won't say they're not the weakest links of the roster, because I think that's true, but I think that like they've just performed so phenomenally up until this point that I would be very surprised if they change that fact by just playing against a team that doesn't really challenge them on the strategies they've been using to win. I think
like David versus Goliath.
All right. You know something interesting. So these teams have actually played twice in the last 3 years. The last team other than the United States to beat Germany in an OSU World Cup was South Korea back in 2020 or 2019. I think it was 2019.
2019, they were
wanna
number 2.
say it was
When they got
2019.
like that was the last time somebody other than the USA beat Germany. It was South Korea.
This
so
this is
I'm
a
just
better
saying.
German
The
roster.
dog.
This is a better German team.
German roster.
Also, last year, lest we forget, last year these two teams played in the losers bracket final. So that's grand finals pool, the hardest the pool's gonna get. Yes, they had Flying Tuna, whatever, but that match went to tiebreaker. It's hard to just off the cuff say, oh, South Korea is going to fall off, because they showed us last year that they can keep this same matchup competitive. And there were people saying that this year's German roster was arguably, if not definitively, worse than last year's. Now, would you say South Korea's is better or worse than last year's? That's a different argument. But I do want to say that these two teams had an incredibly close matchup last year, a year ago, with some of the same players and some different players that can, affect things one way or the other. And it's hard to say which it's going to be.
Matt, I don't know if you can honestly say whether South Korea has gotten stronger or weaker than last year. They did have Flying Tuna, who I distinctly remember hard carried South Korea in that entire match. And while Kriller has looked incredible, while Karcher has looked incredible, I'm not ready to say that Karcher is better than Flying Tuna, so much so that this is an improved South Korean team. So we'll have to see.
Well,
Anyway, France will win.
This is, I think, this
Give it a
might
thought.
be.
de la patrie, jour de l'année,
I'm gonna mute your ass.
arrivé.
So let's just say this though. This is the most contested I think any of our predictions have been, this entire tournament. This is a really insane finals matchup. And it's happening because there's no USA, so there's no oh my god definitive favorite, which is kind of fascinating as well. So yeah, we've got USA, we've got USA versus coming out of this in the losers bracket. We've got Germany coming out of this in the winners bracket to grand finals. We'll have to see. The pick'ems last week went really weird, but some of them got invalidated anyway because of the China situation. So those of us who picked in against China, kind of got away with one with Fia situation occurring. But we'll have to see. So matches this weekend are going to be obviously a couple days because it's only Wednesday instead of Friday. We've got reschedules to be finalized, but we've got Saturday afternoon some of these losers bracket matches, and then Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon the remaining couple of matches. Can I just say that this is one of the most exciting finals weeks that I've seen in OWC ever.
100%.
Do you want to know why?
If you
Because
say
we
it's because
finally
the USA lost,
We
because
finally have
parity.
doubts. Yeah.
Yeah, there's finally a level of parity that we haven't seen in. I mean, despite USA losing to Poland in 2017, it's a level of parity we haven't seen since probably 2015.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, I'm a
cool.
big fan of what we're seeing this year. It speaks a lot. It speaks volumes to the progression of the tournament scene overall as well, where you have all these different countries putting together all these amazing players and putting together really good rosters that can compete with one another in late stages like this. So you don't want to miss it. It's going to be a fun weekend. Anybody have any final thoughts before we sign off here on the weekend that was and the weekend that's to come?
France is going to win.
All
Don't
right.
know about that one, but I do
You
think
heard
it's
it.
really. I do think this is, like you said, one of the most exciting finals weekends we've had in a while. I think it's super cool that we realistically have potentially 4 teams at the very least that could all make a case for top 3.
Hashtag Canada sweep.
Canada Copium.
Hashtag Canada
Let's
Sweep.
go.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. This has been a pretty long episode because we had a lot to discuss. We had a lot to argue about. We had a lot to make hot takes about. But
Very
yeah,
hot takes.
on behalf of everyone here, Dio, Miles, Dada, iFlame, thank you guys all for joining. Thank you to everybody for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed and the hot takes age, maybe well, maybe poorly. We're yet to see, but Canada is going to do it, and that's all that matters. We'll see you guys next week on Full Circle. It'll be grand finals. It'll be exciting. It'll be fun.
Just one more thing. Fuck cheaters.
True.
True.
There you go. See you guys.
Sheesh.